nicely thought out, well-rounded, relatively straightforward, simple scope with the key features that I think are important to not adding a lot of extra stuff. Hey guys, Rex here. Long time coming on this one. We're going to review the Primary Arms SLx. Okay, this is a very nice low power variable optic in an affordable price range that a normal person could afford. It's like around $500, but it's in a first focal plane 30 millimeter main tube, and you got a 1:8 zoom ratio. That's really, really, really nice. It's illuminated, and it's got, this particular one has the ACSS Griffin X reticle, which is a very highly flexible reticle. It can be used with a auto ranging spine in it. If you zero it at 100 yards or whatever the zero tweaks might be in the manual, you can look for your exact load that you're using, and it'll work pretty well up to about 600, okay? Or you can use the BDC grid for your custom stuff. Like I'm running 77s in mine. I mean, if I just have a good dope table, I'm pretty much set. And you got plenty of adjustment out here. We got 10 mils going down, and we got 4 mils coming off each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 mils coming off of each side of the spine. So that's nice for your wind hold offs, your lead, target lead, and all that stuff. We also have a big, decent horseshoe around the chevron in the middle, which works really good for like your close-in type stuff. You crank it down to 1 power, you look through it, and you have a pretty good view of the reticle. Let me put her back on 1 power. There we go. And I can pick that up very easily. And if I got the proper eye relief, and I got the, you know, if I'm centered behind this optic, there's not like any vignetting that's terrible going around the periphery of it at 1 power. So it's almost like using a red dot, and I shoot with both eyes open typically the way I like to do it. But works pretty darn good at 1 power. You crank it up to 4, you can start to really see all your different features in the reticle. When you're looking at the spine of the reticle, you're gonna have auto ranging widths here. So if you paper, pretty hardcore, huh? Right? So we got, you put the dude from shoulder to shoulder in here, it'll tell you how far he is. Same deal here. If he's inside here, he's at 400. If he's inside here, he's at 500. And if he's inside here, he's at 600. And with the trajectory of the 5.56, you can actually use those as your aiming points. And it's pretty close. Is it exactly right on? No. But this isn't like a precision, like target shooting deal. This is a battle reticle for a larger vertical size target, right? And so it's very effective for that. I also like the flexibility of it being a mil scale reticle as well. You got a mil scale right in there, see? Because I can basically use up to 10 mils, and I can get out there a lot farther than most folks would be able to. Because once you get past 600 in this kind of caliber, even with 77 grainers, you're going to have to make some minor tweaks, most likely. And it's nice to have a grid pattern, because on the fly, if you're just hammering them out there, you can use it kind of like the old Horus type systems would use it, I suppose, where you can just, you know, spot your impact and immediately adjust to there on the grid. Very, very handy. I like that a lot. The footprint of the scope is something I really dig. So it's relatively light for something like this at around 17.9 ounces. So it's not super heavy for being a 30 millimeter scope. I like the low profile turrets here, okay? And they have caps on them. Now, Rex, what if you want to dial it? Well, yeah, you got a grid scale reticle. You're not going to need to dial it. If you did, well, you can take off the cap, okay? I like caps for a rifle like this in the context of a carbine that you're going to carry around. It's really nice if you're running around through obstacles and stuff like that. Having a turret cap is going to save you if you do bump the scope, which that is a part on the footprint of the rifle that will protrude out more than others. So it's going to take hits. A cap turret is nice because it insulates the actual mechanical turrets from getting hit, which is a huge source of break in any kind of optic. So for a running around type scope, I really like having turret caps on the turrets, and low profile as possible. Over here, it's a little larger. They actually got a spare battery in here. See, you can have your spare battery right there, which is smart on your windage. That's why that sticks out a little more. I like having stuff like that on board. I think that's really cool. You can change your battery right here, and there's your illumination. You have all the way up to, let's go back to here. We have off, and we have daytime 2, which is your brightest setting, and it's daylight visible, okay? Guys, some guys really like that daylight visible thing. I suppose there's an application for that. There's a time and a place and a season for everything, right, guys? Daytime 1, then you have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then you have night vision 2, night vision 1, and off. So you don't have your settings in between to where it turns off in between. You can kind of set it there in between there to actually turn off the reticle. You come all the way to off. This optic does feature 0.1 MRAD adjustments, so it's done in mils to match the reticle. If you're zeroing it, you just look at where it hit and measure it with mils, adjust that amount in the right direction on the turrets. Pretty easy to get zeroed then. The eye relief is pretty good. It's like 3.2, 3.3 inches. So if I come over here, I can get right on it. And I got plenty of room for mounting that way, so I can have more room for adjustment in how I want to play this. So I like having a little more forgiving eye relief is good. The field of view at 100 yards when you're on your low power setting is 105 feet. And if you're cranked all the way up to 8 power, it's 14.3 feet. Of course, one of the big advantages to having this particular scope, it's a little more expensive being in the first focal plane, but I do not have to worry about what power setting I'm on when I'm using my reticle. My reticle will always stay proportional to the target image, so I can use those markings the same way I can on every setting, so you don't have to think math and stuff like that. If it was a second focal plane reticle, it has advantages in being maintaining a very small size when you crank it all the way up, but it's not proportional to the target anymore. And one of the things that is nice on a first focal plane reticle like this, when you crank it from 1 to 8 power, the tip of the chevron is your primary aiming point if you need a real precise shot, you know, going out to your medium ranges. And it's going to be an infinitely small aiming point. You're not going to have any problem cranking it all the way up, especially for zeroing. You crank it up to 8 power, and it's not like you're zooming in on a big, huge, unusable, gross reticle. That infinitely small is fractional geometry. It just gets, now there is a certain printing resolution that they laser etch reticles with, but it's sharp. So let me crank it all the way up to 8 power. Let me see if I can discern any kind of texture. Yeah, it's sharper than you can see. So even on 8 power, that chevron is really sharp. You're gonna get a nice, precise zero, no problem with that type of deal. This thing is relatively tough. That's what I wanted to kind of check with, okay? Because like, it's an optic. I've used the 1 to 6s on all kinds of stuff, and I know they're pretty tough. Like we put ours on, I have my DSA Para model FAL, which is kind of hard on scopes, and I hammered like thousands of rounds through my 1 to 6 on that. And a lot of that one has floated around on a lot of different rifles. I know guys that use them with scars. These are actually tested very thoroughly. I'm familiar with their testing processes, that they field these optics before they release them. They actually have guys go out and hammer a bunch of rounds through them and use them, and they find any potential points that could be improved in terms of what kind of adhesives need to be used on getting stuff stuck together, and they work very well. Sometimes you spend just a little bit more money on the exact right adhesive, the glue that most modern scopes are built that way, right? But if you use the right one, it's not that much more money, but it makes such a huge difference. And they pay attention to details like that, which I think is cool. So it's pretty tough. Like, I didn't get super Western with the 1 to 8, but we did run around with it quite a bit. And it's been getting knocked around in the truck. I throw it in the pile. I don't like carrying it in a gun case. I finally rattle canned it. I think this is the first rattle can job that is on here after we kind of decided, yep, that's a good optic. We'll marry that to the rifle. So the rifle and the optic are married here. I think it's very well suited for a crossover for all applications. So if you're gonna do long, like with ARs, right? Particularly if you're gonna do long range stuff, and especially if you got like strange calibers or strange loads, There's a lot of platforms in the AR, 6.8s. You got your, there's all kinds of stuff available in the AR for calibers, right? You got your big stuff, your little stuff, lots of different loads available. Very, very, very universal rifle platform. And so having the mil scale reticle is awesome because it's super flexible. You change setups, you can take the scope and put it on any caliber. And with a mil scale reticle, you just make it work. Just put your dope somewhere where you can find it, right? So I really like this one. This is a classic. I think that, like, in its price range for a carbine optic, someone was asking over on my Patreon page, because we do questions and answers very regularly there. I'll take questions and actually do video answers on them. But someone was asking about, hey, what's your recommendation for like an affordable, low power, variable optic that is relatively rugged and should, work for a lot of applications? I think something like this is actually a nice balance. Is there stuff that's nicer? Yeah, of course. But like, when you define nicer in my terminology, which means it's affordable enough, I can like throw it around and not be scared to break it. It's small and light, and the profile's low enough to where I can use it, and it's not cumbersome. It doesn't make the rifle like really. I can still put all my junk on the rifle, and it's not like this. Ounces make pounds pretty quick, and having a lighter optic for this kind of application is an important deal. Especially in my slightly older age, I'm like, okay, I can feel the ounces now. Like I didn't feel them before, but yeah, it's a true thing. So, man, I'll tell you what, I like it. If you want to dig it, you can check out Primary Arms. They're available at a lot of other places too. A pretty good setup for a universal carbine that you're going to use a lot, and you don't have to worry about like denting your extremely nice stuff. This is what I would call a working man's optic that's universally compatible with whatever caliber you're running, whatever system you're running. The ACSS Griffin mill is just brilliant. If you are doing 5.56, you can use their auto ranging and their spine for their BDC type stuff out to a certain distance, and it's pretty effective. So nicely thought out, well-rounded, relatively straightforward, simple scope, with the key features that I think are important to not adding a lot of extra stuff. All right, guys, thanks for the patience and waiting for us to finally test this after like the better part of a year. But here it is. All right, rock and roll. Rex out.